You are listening to the most original talk radio station anywhere. We are LA Talk Radio at latalkradio.com.
You're listening to Oscar's Guitar Shop with Oscar Jordan, right here on LA Talk Radio.
All right, sweethearts, what are you waiting for? Breakfast in bed? Another glorious day in the Corps. Day in the Marine Corps is like a day on the farm. Every meal's a banquet. Every paycheck a fortune. Every formation a parade. I love the Corps.
Greetings, guitar lovers, and welcome to another episode of Oscar's Guitar Shop. I'm Vintage Guitar Magazine contributing writer Oscar Jordan, and for the next 50 minutes, we will journey into the bizarre and twisted world of guitar players. Ooh. We'll discuss music, gear, influences, and ask a lot of inappropriate questions. Along with my co-host Maurice Sydnor, we will take you to the Forbidden Zone. Ladies and gentlemen, the lovely and talented Maurice Sydnor.
Well, all right. Friday once again, back at the shop, working, spanking the plank. A special guest. Got a lot of threats up in here. Thank you.
It's going to be a great show. We have the coolest guest in the entire universe and the known universe. The outside of the universe, we don't know. It could be some better. But in this universe right now, we have the coolest guest in the world. Oscar's Guitar Shop is powered by Music Connection magazine, informing music people, industry professionals, and support services since 1977. Visit them at musicconnection.com. Also, Analog Man Guitar Effects, providing everything you need between your amp and guitar. Visit them at analogman.com. And now, are you ready?
Anxiously awaiting.
Check that out. No, Maurice, that's not me playing.
It's not? I could have sworn.
Strange, twisted dream, that would be me.
Well, I thought that's when you just got back from Spain, came back off, I couldn't even recognize you.
Even in Spain, on psychotropic drugs, could I ever play like this?
Yeah, now that's what I'm talking about right there. Let's get on down to business, brass tack, and all that.
Hell yeah. Steve Stevens hit the ground running in the early 80s with the first Billy Idol record and never looked back. Distinguishing himself with valor amidst a sea of shredders and posers, Stevens not only brought his unique presence to national attention, he brought innovative ideas and guitar virtuosity to music that the average rock fan would actually pay to hear. You know what I mean? That's the difference, They actually would pay to hear this, you know what I'm saying? Hypnotic chugging rhythms and laser sounds were offset by soulful end-of-the-world rock guitar soloing and a hankering for flamenco guitar stylings and groove. Stevens played on the Top Gun soundtrack, which won him a Grammy, on Dirty Diana with Michael Jackson, and collaborated with Vince Neil on the album Exposed. And if you don't own a copy of his solo records, Atomic Playboys and Memory Crash, something is wrong with you. You need to go buy it. Stevens also can be heard on the soundtrack to the Robert Rodriguez film Once Upon a Time in Mexico. If you're still not impressed, you can check him out getting his prog rock yayas out with bassist Tony Levin and drummer Terry Bozzio on Black Light Syndrome and Situation Dangerous. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an absolute pleasure for me to welcome the great Steve Stevens.
The Radiation Romeo.
That's quite an intro, man.
I'm just being honest.
Can I bring you to family functions?
Yeah. I attend barbecues and bar mitzvahs.
He does theme songs too.
Do.
You can walk and he'll do your theme song in the back.
Wow. I'm going to be unbearable for a whole day. I'll go home to my wife. I'll be like, "Do you know who I am?"
It's tough being the man, isn't it? Well, hey, man. Well, right out of the box, I got to ask you this because it's one of the things I'm one of these morons who go on guitar forums, and there's a particular forum called Harmony Central's Guitar Jam, and I told people that I was going to interview you, And one of the questions he said, well, is it true? It's one of those is it true questions.
Ooh.
And you are here to set the internet straight forevermore.
Right.
Is it true that Michael Jackson or Quincy Jones called you to do the Beat It solo in Beat It before Eddie Van Halen, and you said no?
No, absolutely not.
That's not true.
No. No.
Now we know.
Okay, I'm going to go back and tell all my friends
Wrong.
that we got to the bottom of this.
Yeah. That one I've never heard before. That's, yeah.
There's
No, obviously, there is a connection there because Ted Templeman was my connection to Quincy Jones and also the connection for Eddie Van Halen. So after they had done Beat It for the follow-up record, Quincy made that call again to Ted and goes, okay, we've done the thing with Eddie. Who do you got? Who's the next guy? And I had just signed with Warner Brothers, and so Ted threw my name in the hat there, and lo and behold, I got a call from Quincy Jones.
What's that call got to be like?
Man, I had been out the night before. It was a late night, so I had a bit of a hangover, let's say. And the phone rings, and I thought it was somebody messing with me. And, it says, "Hey, this is Quincy Jones, Steve Stevens there." And I went, "Yeah, right." Hung up the phone. Phone rings again. He goes, "I'm not going to call back. This is the real deal. I got your number from Ted Templeman." I went,
Hey, so after your hangover, did you get that? Yeah, Steve, this is Quincy Jones.
Yeah.
And you're going, man, Oscar, get off the phone and quit playing. Calling back. Steve, I'm not going to call back. Hey,
So what did he say? What did he say on the phone?
He said, we're working on the follow-up record. And actually, he had remembered that when I came out in 1981 to L.A. to do the first Billy Idol record, the one with White Wedding on it, they were working at Westlake as well. And it must have been on Off the Wall, the album. And he said, "Yeah, I remember you guys down the hall, And so we had a little bit of a history there, and he said working on this track, and it's different from Michael. It's a dark kind of like, it's a slower groove, and would you be up to coming out and working on it? And I, to me, I was never a session musician, although I got calls to play on other records, but I'm not the guy, I'm not like a Steve Lukather who was at that point, on a lot of records. But I did get a call to work on a Diana Ross record once, and I went in the studio and there was no Diana Ross, and I said, "Man, this messed up, man. I'm used to like, working with the artist. I'm not like a, piecemeal kind of like assembly line guitar player."
Who was the producer on that?
Oh man, I don't even remember.
But it says something about you as a player that they're like, you know how it is in the industry. Oh, who's the man now? And then that's the guy they call. And it could be.
But I found it really I just never wanted to be that guy who's just doing, I'm just not a session. I'm not good at. I don't read well enough to do that kind of stuff. So I need the artist to tell me what they're looking for, because,
Right.
So I said to Quincy, "Well, yeah, I'll do it as long as Michael's in the studio, And he laughed, and he said, "Of course, this is MFing record. Of course I'll be in the studio." I said, "You'd be surprised, man. I got a call to do this thing," and he said, "Well, that's not what Michael Jackson's about. Michael Jackson is about working with the artist, working with all the musicians. He's got an idea." And when I came in to do it, there was virtually no guitar. There wasn't like a demo or anything. It was just Michael going, "I hear the melody like this, I mean, it was just him kind of relaying what was in his head, which was great because I was used to that.
And just to let everybody in there, we're talking about Dirty Diana.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great song.
So yeah, the track was like 7 minutes long, the version I played on, and then they ended up editing it down, and we nailed down the melodies, and then they said, "Do what you want to do," and that's when I did all the crazy sort of ray gun guitar stuff and all that.
Now, oftentimes, like for example, Lukather did a lot of stuff for Michael Jackson.
Right.
But sometimes they would just have him play riffs, or I think they gave him a bass at one point. He played some bass lines. Did you do the riffs and the solos in that?
I did, yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Because it gives Michael a meaner sound. I remember when that came out. That was like, oh man, Michael is rocking, you know.
Yeah, and it's just straight through. It was straight through. So you didn't hear the verse one player and then the solo another player and back and forth. But that unsterile environment, like you're just sitting here, Steve, we're going to run this tape about 25 times.
Right.
And where's the artist? It's just you and me, Steve.
Yeah.
You know, in the room.
I just never understood that. You know, that's just not my thing. But yeah, it was cool. It was very cool.
And that's great. Now, people, they probably call you about because you do the flashy rock guitar thing. But what I hear, because I've been a big fan of yours for many, many years, is you do this flamenco thing.
Right.
And like we heard at the beginning of that last track, and now you're getting sessions to do that. And how did that come about?
Yeah, I didn't. I started playing guitar when I was really young, 7.5 years old, and I didn't get an electric until I was 13. So all that time I'm playing acoustic, and one of my first teachers was a flamenco. I went away to a summer camp, and there was a flamenco guitarist who was the teacher. I just naturally gravitated towards it, and it's always been something I loved. And then when I went to high school, I went to the Fame School, which is the high school.
I Want to Live Forever?
Yeah, I want to live forever.
I went to the Chicago version of that, so yeah.
And one of the guitarists there, he was a flamenco guitarist, and his dad was Mario Escudero Sr., who was the guitar player for the Jose Greco Dance Company. So flamenco has always been there for me. It's just when Paco de Lucia hit, and I first heard him with the trio with McLaughlin and
and Friday Night in San Francisco.
I just was like, I know the other guys, but who's that guy?
Yeah.
And it's just there's a lot of soul to flamenco. It's constantly evolving because I dig the guys who aren't the pure flamenco guys. If anybody wants to check out, there's a guitar player named Gerardo Nunez, who is the most mind-blowing. Whether you like flamenco, rock, or whatever, if you go on YouTube and watch some of his videos, you'll be astounded.
Yeah.
And to me, flamenco is less like the speed metal of acoustic guitar.
I agree. It's a very easy to take in if you're like an electric rock player, especially if you come from say like a Yngwie or Al Di Meola place or Flashy, even John McLaughlin. Yeah. When you hear flamenco, you can't, if you're really into guitar as opposed to just music, that stuff just really just pulls you in, and I love that stuff.
Yeah. Hey, and one thing about it, do you think that you attribute that flamenco has so much composition, like instead of just free bass, like when some of the guys he mentioned?
Yeah.
Did you think that you can tell that carried through your rock?
It did
song based.
It did influence it because I had done a purely acoustic record called Flamenco A Go-Go, and during that time I had finished up with Vince Neil, and we had spent 6 weeks on the road supporting Van Halen, and I had taken the rock shred guitar. If you're going to open for Van Halen, you better shred. You better, So I had taken my rock side at that point as far as I could, and I had newly, I'd kind of, got burnt out. After the Vince Neil thing, I got sober, and I just thought, well, what am I going to do next? And I stopped playing electric guitar, and I did a purely flamenco thing. Now I'm not a real flamenco player in the sense of using my fingers.
You play with a pick.
I do, yeah. And there's guys.
I say the purists would say, "Hey, man, you're playing with a pick."
And I get, and there's comments online and stuff, and and that's, I don't. Hey, man, I do what I do.
Right.
But I listen to a lot of the real deal things, and I interpret it. And to me, that's what music should be about: absorbing influences and interpreting them.
I think you bring in a different audience too now that hasn't heard a lot of flamenco, and now they're going, oh wow, Stevie Stevens is doing it, and it broadens your ears, like Oscar was saying. The song structure, compositional. Then you can go back to your rock and you bring in some more tools.
And if they hear me and I help turn them on to some other dude, they're going to go listen to Paco de Lucia. Then that's good enough for me, you know.
Have you heard Rodrigo y Gabriela?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think?
Yeah, really cool, really cool. I mean, I like their original compositions. Their interpretations of metal songs.
Metallica and Stairway to Heaven.
I mean, it's all right, you know. But I actually like their original compositions better.
Yeah. Well, in the sense that you know.
She's amazing though.
Oh yeah, with the percussive thing.
She is.
She does that.
Fiery.
And she's easy on the eyes too.
Yeah, she's incredible, man.
But it, like, you know, that goes back to interpretation, because, you know, no way, you know, when you're interpreting music, there's no traditional purist police.
That's right.
You know, you really have to take your thing.
Yeah.
You worked with Juno Reactor.
Right.
On the Shango album.
Right.
And Pistolero is the tune. And you just I don't know how you got the sound, because it's hard for some people. It's hard to mic that kind of guitar to get that lush, beautiful sound. But tell me about that session working on that, because it's an electronica band basically.
Right. Yeah. Juno Reactor is really one guy. It's Ben Watkins. And when I was starting my flamenco record, I was looking to bridge the flamenco and electronic, you know, dance rhythms underneath it. And there's a group called B Tribe that had done that, but in a kind of soft kind of way. And I was looking for an aggressive way. And somehow, I got contacted to work with Tracy Lords of all people.
Oh, wow!
But they sent me her record Control, which is an electronic record, and I really dug it. And I said, well, you know, who did this record? And it turns out it was Ben Watkins from Juno Reacted. And I contacted him and I said, man, you know, I'm looking to do something with flamenco and beats and electronic music. And so we arranged. I went to London for 3 days to work with him. Originally, the idea was to work with him on something for my record, but it was too far in the electronic world. So he ended up saying, well, I'll use it for Juno Reactor. And that's how Pistolero came about. And it was just me and Ben in the studio, and that was the first recording I had gotten of a really beautiful guitar by a guy named Pedro de Miguel. And the reason I got that guitar was because Gerardo Nunez, who I mentioned, plays that instrument by that maker. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get that guitar and be as good as that guy. Not quite, but it's an incredible sounding guitar, and Ben was able to capture it and have it. That's the trick, as you mentioned, to have it sit alongside, you know, 808 drums and all this, and he made it work. So hats off. It's
a nice, you know, there's a lot of artsy fartsy going on there with the juxtaposition of electronica, flamenco, the heavy rock thing. It's really cool. Now, I remember you mentioned this earlier, but the first time I interviewed you, this was a few years ago, you mentioned this, you told this story, and I don't even know if you'll recall, but people would call you in for sessions, and they'd say, okay, here's what we're doing. We're going to start on bar 7 here. We're going to do the bridge, and then we're going to modulate here, and they give you, you know, all the sheet music. Yeah. And you were like, so how do you, because you don't read, how do you handle those situations?
I bow out gracefully. Yeah. I mean, people, by and large, I don't really get called to that many sessions. But there was one in particular for a film, and there's a film composer named Mark Mancina who was working on a film called Assassins with Stallone and Antonio Banderas, and this bit of flamenco guitar in it. And he called me, asked me to come in and put the sheet music in front of me, and I just said, well, I'm not the guy for this. And he said, well, we're already here. What would you play? You know, here's the way the track goes. How would you play it? And I just interpreted it, and I think the most valuable lesson is don't try and bull them, you know, anyone bullshit them, you know. Yeah. I was honest about it. I said, look, I'm not a reader, and I don't want to waste your time here. So if that's what you're looking for, I can recommend somebody.
Yeah.
But they ended up using how I heard the track. But if they were looking for specifically me to play that melody or theme that was there, they would have got nothing from me because I don't read. So
Right. I see.
But don't you think that sometimes that you bring more to the session? Like a lot of times you get called in the studio. Well, really let Stevie be Steve,
Right.
So that's the best thing you're gonna get. Because a lot of times, have you ever had anybody tell you like, what we want Steve right is a did, and like what is that?
yeah.
Just let you be free and get the vibe and.
Or the worst thing is if I'm working with someone and they say, well, can you give us something like Rebel Yell?
Yeah.
And that's that's now 30 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way I play Rebel Yell, and that's the way I play largely with Billy Idol. But if I work with someone else, I'm not going to try and recreate that.
Mm.
People always say, why don't you guys do another Rebel Yell or something? We've done that, And when we go out on tour, we play a lot of songs from that record, but I have no interest in doing Rebel Yell Part 2 or.
I don't blame you. It was great stuff, though. I remember that was a great album. Any chance of us hearing any more solo albums from you?
Yeah, I mean, not this year. This year looks like it's largely a Billy Idol year.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be touring. Originally, I had plans to do a solo record. I had said on my Facebook I would do one last year, but I got busy doing other stuff,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I understand. Because I tell you, I remember back in the day when you did the project with Vince Neil.
Mm-hmm.
That was just so rocking. That Memory Crash.
Right.
That was my favorite.
Oh man, it's a great record. How about the Terry Bozzio, Tony Levin stuff?
Yeah, I just saw it. I hadn't seen Terry in almost 10 years, and I just saw him. We did something out at Musicians Institute, and it was insane because Terry was there with Chad Wackerman, and they did like this drum duo thing, and it was the first time I had seen Terry behind a small kit, like a four or five piece drum kit, since I saw him with Missing Persons way back in the day.
Yeah.
And he was insane. It was great, and I thought, when I worked with Terry, it was, there was no room in the studio for my gear because Terry's drums are massive. And and I thought, wow, if we, I was very humbled to work with Terry and Tony Levin, and those are two monster players. And I just felt that if I can just hold my own and contribute compositionally, my job really was more to bring song ideas into that than anything. And I'd love to work with those guys again. So if we can.
I wore that stuff out, and what I dig about it is that with Billy Idol, it's obviously, it's about the singer and the song.
Right.
But on the Fusion prog records, it's like I am unleashed. I am unleashed. I am Steve Stevens, and I am free.
Yeah.
I am unleashed, and you shall hear my tone. and that's the way it just feels like you're going nuts, and it's great. It's great. Great
yeah,
stuff.
I mean that's there's different. I wear many hats, and when I work with Billy Idol, obviously there's not that many singer guitar player duos that have lasted as long as we have, and that's something that I really cherish, and it's like family at this point, and so I really enjoy working with Billy, but it calls on a different skill set to work with a Billy Idol as opposed to doing my own thing. So
and what is that?
Support the song, get the best. Inspire him to get the best performance and be a co-songwriter and maybe less notes, but there's a talent that's called on to make the most out of the least amount of notes, so I'm never frustrated by not playing a million notes. I'm just not that guy.
It's a different situation, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people, that's just changing hats, so to speak,
Right.
which I've never seen you in a hat, by the way. But I like Memory. I think a lot of people slept on Memory Crush.
Right.
I would recommend that to all young guitar players that really want to learn to get lyrical flow and just strengthen composition. I mean,
yeah. I mean, the thing for me was I would always held off on doing an electric guitar solo record. And when Mike Varney contacted me to do that record, the litmus test was I wanted to make an instrumental guitar record that people that didn't play guitar could still enjoy.
Exactly.
And that person I always went to was my wife. She don't play guitar. I've taken her to see shred guitar shows, and she's just bored to tears. But I thought, if she found it interesting enough, then that's cool.
Yeah. I want to play a little cut here. This is from Memory Crash. It's called Prime Mover. Very nice. It's very cool.
If you truly care about your guitar tone, then you already know that Analog Man Guitar Effects makes the best stomp boxes in the world. Analog Man Guitar Effects has only one mission, and one mission only, to help you get your sound. They specialize in high-end boutique and custom-made pedals used by the best guitar players in the music business. They manufacture, modify, buy, sell, and repair new effects, and their customer service is totally awesome. Their fuzz pedals, overdrives, compressors, chorus pedals, boosters, and delay pedals are truly awesome and chock full of analog goodness. But there's more. Visit Analog Man online at analogman.com and check on their huge selection of pedals, power supplies, cables, accessories, and pedal modifications. Once again, that's analogman.com. Analog Man Guitar Effects, everything you need between your guitar and amp. And you got slide guitar going on here and everything.
That's my Gilmore homage.
Yeah, that is very cool.
And it's cool.
Yeah, and obviously you're a great guitar player, but I just love the production as well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I'm really digging it.
Hey, what was the song that you had on Memory Crash? It's something Vanilla?
Cherry Vanilla, yeah.
I love that. It's one of my favorite songs. I was going down and I was listening.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and the intro. Man, do you see what's going on in the world? And then all of a sudden you just start ripping.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, that was Cherry Vanilla was a performer in New York back in the Maxis Kansas City days. So that was my, urban kind of New York groove thing, A lot of that record is really influenced by those 70s era rock records, And I think that those records that shaped me as a player, obviously the early English stuff and the early English progressive rock stuff, it's still with me. And when I go to make music or do instrumental stuff, those things that had an imprint on me as a kid learning, what I'm trying to do is give the listener the same feeling that I felt as a 14-year-old kid listening to Close to the Edge or any of those records.
Were you still in Brooklyn then?
We had moved to Queens by then, yeah.
Hey, you mind taking a call from one of your big fans?
Sure.
The hugest fan. Well, not as big as me, but here you go. Check this out. Let's see. Hello, you're on the air with Oscar's Guitar Shop with Oscar Jordan, Maurice Sydnor, and Steve Stevens. Are you there? Are you there?
Crickets.
Is that you?
Come on in, caller.
Caller,
we're waiting
are you
for
there?
you.
We're waiting.
Valuable airspace.
Are you there? I guess he chickened out.
I like to call a lifeline, please. I'm calling Brooklyn.
Right.
Is this your
Where
final answer?
Brooklyn? Where Brooklyn at?
Wow, there we go. Well, he called back as I guess he was trying to get in, and he didn't. So tell me, how do you, what motivates you? I mean, sometimes, I don't know about you, I play guitar all the time. I teach guitar. I'm learning songs. But every once in a while, I just get sick of playing guitar.
Really?
I really do. I just go, oh man, if I hear one more lick, and then I listen to show tunes.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not a homosexual,
Yeah.
but I do listen to show tunes. Yeah. And tell me, what motivates you?
Yeah. I mean, I don't listen to shred guitar.
Mhm.
But I never did. It was, I was always, aware of what other players were doing, but I never. But the guitar as an instrument has never steered me wrong. It's been in my life. 45 years now, and it's never done me wrong. It's always been the first thing I do.
What's interesting is you've been playing 45 years, but yet you're only 30.
Yeah, man, I wish.
Wow,
Boy,
that's
time,
amazing. Yeah.
Quantum time thing.
Oh, wait, he's back. Let's see if we can get him on. Let's see. Are you there, Oscar Jordan? Are you on there? I don't know. He's shy.
We're having some technical difficulties right now on the call-in.
Can you hear us? Because we would love to hear everything you have to say.
If you get a busy signal, please hang up and call right back.
I don't know. They taught me how to do this.
Yeah,
and then I had remedial training. And then I put my helmet on and my mouth guard, and I still can't do it.
I told you I should have been in here with you.
Well, I don't know. There he is. Are you there? Dang. What's the dealio? I don't know.
Crickets,
I got the
crickets.
knobs up.
Yeah, okay.
Maurice, tell jokes.
Well, I just wanted to know what it was like being in Brooklyn. What kind of rock were you hearing at 9 years old beside the radio? Was there any local stuff that was jumping out at you?
Yeah, I mean, there was. The thing is, I grew up in. I was born in Brooklyn, but I grew up in Rockaway, where the protest singer Phil Oakes was from.
Oh yeah, right.
So all these people that were in my neighborhood all idolized Phil Oakes. So the protest music and that whole side of it was really what we were listening to.
Well, hey, were you? And the rap scene that started. Did you get a lot of crossover and hear a lot of that on the local level, or you're about you're only 12 then?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, I saw early Grandmaster Flash shows.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
And then Eddie Martinez, who played on all those Run DMC things, was
Rock
was
Box.
my buddy. Yeah.
Hey, down.
Eddie was my buddy. So I saw that it was just another form of expression.
So there's cross-pollination.
Absolutely.
Everybody,
Absolutely.
because Rockbox at the time, remember, oh man, that Run DMC were like, oh, here we go.
Right. It was awesome because once again, if something moves you and it's groovy, that's all I'm looking for,
And that's the kind of the spark that gets you to motivate it to do other things.
Yeah, because your feet move first. I think the guitar is for the brain, but the groove is for other areas.
Yeah, that's what's great about when your work with Billy Idol and being able to actually make music that moves people. A lot of guitar players, they get caught up in note density.
Well, it was not easy trying to figure out how we would create something unique, with Billy and I, because I came from the Guitar Hero school of, I had seen, Yes and all these bands and loved Zeppelin. And here's Billy, this guy had just moved to New York from this punk rock scene, and those bands were against all of that stuff that I dug. So how do we make this kind of work and bring Guitar Hero stuff into the music as well as keep the Billy Idol punk rock thing going
and make it sit right in the pocket easily?
Yeah. So it took some, we didn't nail it perfectly on the first record. White Wedding was the last track we did on that record, and that was kind of a hint of what's to come. But once we started to work on Rebel Yell, we kind of went, a little light bulb went off, and we went, oh, now I see how this could work.
Yeah. Oscar, remember when we were listening to this, one of the things we commented back in the day was, how's he getting those little bleeps? Not only was he playing, but he was getting
the ray gun sound.
The ray gun and all these other little
How did you
bleeps
do that?
and blurbs.
Well, that came from, when we were working on Rebel Yell, it was like, okay, we got 8 bars for guitar solo. And it wasn't going to work just to have notes and, it wasn't going to work. So we needed a sound. We needed something sonically. So I brought in the Billy Cobham record with Tommy Bolin on it. And on
Spectrum. Spectrum, yeah.
And there's one solo he does where he does this echoplex thing where the guitar takes off and goes, and I played it for our producer, Keith Forsey, and I said, what if we did something like that? And he went, that's exactly what we need. And I said, right, I'm thinking about it. And I didn't have an echoplex at the time. And I'm like, and I said, give me a day. So I go home, and I'd already started to collect like toy robots and stuff, and I had this ray gun, and I just like started playing it into the pickups of my guitar. And I went, that's,
Got it.
So we used the ray gun as well as there's a digital delay, a Lexicon PCM41. So we used them both at the same time, and we punched in just at that time because I couldn't like play the solo and then drop, and we kind of got this thing that people now go, well, what the hell is it?
They loved it. When the time it came out, it was like so unusual, and people were like, what's he doing? How we can get it?
Yeah.
Oscar and I talked about that.
But how do you do that live? How do you get that live?
I play a toy ray gun, and I hold the note and I pick it up, and as the notes decay, and the ray gun gets played through the guitar pickups.
Do you have an endorsement deal with this ray gun?
No.
Because you'd make $1 million.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have to. There's a bit of work that has to be done on the ray guns. I open them up, and if you just play if you just hit the ray gun, it just goes. But you have to vary the rate. So there's a little resistor in all of them. They have these little circuit boards, and then I put a potentiometer, and I got into it. I've got like 3 ray guns that are doctored, and it's not just, you don't just pick up a ray gun and go, there's a whole art to it.
And so you're holding it to the pickups?
Yeah, you play it through the pickups.
And do you have any like delays going on?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Hit the delays.
So you got some dirt going, you got some delay.
Right. Yeah, it sounds awesome, man.
How's your delay set to do that?
This is like a trail off delay, so as the rate's going down, you get this. It's kind of like this sonic assault, and it's cool. I mean, there's guys. When I started to look online, there's like it's an art called circuit bending, and there's guys.
Oh yeah.
They have like speaking spells that they like.
Okay, we have another caller.
Stuff,
this guy is from somewhere in the world, and hopefully this will work because I'm getting frustrated. Hello, you're on with Oscar Jordan, Steve Stevens, and Maurice Sydnor on Oscar's Guitar Shop. Are you there?
Yes.
Hey.
Oh my God.
All right, hey.
It's amazing. We're so glad to hear from you. Who are you, sir?
Great. How you guys doing?
Good. Frank, what's your name? What's your whole name?
Yeah, this is Frank from Omaha.
Omaha, off at Air Force Base.
Hey, Frank, how's it going, man?
Good. Freezing out here in the middle of the country.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
we're freezing our fingers off.
What do we got, about 73 today?
How you guys doing? Sunny out there in L.A.?
73. You know how we roll on Friday afternoon.
We're all in flip-flops and shorts and no shirt here right now.
I am not in flip-flops.
Do you have a question for Steve Stevens?
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have a question for Steve Stevens?
Yes. Hi, Steve.
Hey, man.
Fire away.
I had read a long time ago that you were using vintage plexis for all the Billy Idol stuff, and I think the Atomic Playboys as well. So I was wondering, is that still the core of your guitar sound, or have you tried some of the more modern stuff? And also, what are you using for your effects rig these days?
Right. Yeah, I still have my plexis, and those were. There was one amp in particular that became my prime recording amp, and it's a 69 plexi. And I own about 4 plexis now, and but I'm actually debuting an amp next week that is largely based on my prime plexi. It's an amp that I've toured with for the last 2 years. It's designed by Dave Friedman at Rack Systems, and who's now got his shop over at Tone Merchants. And that amp's going to be available to people that want it. It's basically like a really great plexi with a usable master volume. That's the only thing about plexis is they're just too loud. There's no master volumes on them. They're too loud for me to use live.
Right.
Exactly.
But most of the recording stuff that I've been happy with my tone on has been with a Marshall plexi.
Yeah.
Sure. So you use a straight cabinet with greenbacks with that?
Yeah. Sometimes I use vintage 30s depending on the track, but most of the time I have one cabinet that when we opened it up, we had to repair a speaker, and it actually had Jim Marshall's signature in pencil on the inside. And that's been my recording cabinet from day one with Billy Idol. I still record with that. So.
Oh wow,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
So what's going to go out with you on the road for the tour coming up with Billy Idol?
Yeah, it's been this. I've had the same live rig, which is basically a 3-amp system. Dry in the middle. They call it a wet, dry, wet thing with 3 cabinets. Cabinet in the center is dry, and then the outside cabinets are powered by power amps. I've just switched to these Matrix power amps, which are...
Oh, right. Yeah, for the effects.
Yeah. And then Dave Friedman at Rack Systems has done all my effects, and it's all, MIDI, and when I'm not using... The most important thing is when I'm not using an effect, it's completely taken out of line, so my guitar signal sounds as good as if I plugged straight into the amp.
Oh, okay. Great, yeah.
That's very cool.
One particular question, if I could.
Sure. Go ahead.
I've always wondered this, man. What is the chorus or flanger or whatever effect on Flesh for Fantasy, on the clean, funky rhythm parts of that song?
That was recorded with one of those Schultz Rockmans.
Oh,
right?
sure.
So it's on the cleanest setting. It's super compressed. And it also has a chorus, so the guitar went straight into that, and then out of that into one of those Roland Dimension D chorus units. So it's chorus on top of chorus, and then I even had a compressor pedal before the Rockman, so the guitar is super compressed, and then I used a volume pedal because it would just kind of sustain too much. So you got a super compressed and super chorus thing, and then there's some delays and reverbs added in the studio, but that's basically the sound of a Schultz Rockman.
Very cool.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was wondering about that. Love that sound.
That's a cool song. Hey, Frank, thanks for calling. I really appreciate it. Call back anytime. You have very cool questions, man.
All right, thank you, Oscar. Thanks, Steve.
All right, thanks, Frank.
Stay warm, okay?
Take care, guys.
All right, that was very cool. Good questions, huh?
Oh, yeah, nowhere else but Oscar's Guitar Shop do you get this insight. And people, the robot tip, we get some good tips, but that'll go down in history. So I hope you're listening.
Yeah, well, now, as you know, it is time for...
Say we take off, nuke the site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
It's time for the burning question. It's the end of the show.
I'm ready.
And as always, we always ask the burning question.
Valtrex. Right. No.
At the top of the show, we had to dismiss some weird rumors that people who don't know you, they just say stuff. And,
right. Yeah.
And so we dispel. So here's another one. This is a biggie, and I need you to help me take care of this once and for all so that people will know. John Goodsall is a session guitarist and known for his work in the fusion band Brand X.
Right.
Much of John Goodsall's work as a session guitarist have not been credited or listed on record sleeves. The Billy Idol tracks Rebel Yell and Eyes Without a Face were actually played by session musicians hired by producer Keith Forsey.
Right.
The live band is listed in the sleeve, but the tracks were actually recorded by LA session men. Producer Keith Forsey had tried recording Billy's band in New York, but was disappointed in their studio performance. Forsey and Idol hired pro session musicians in Los Angeles to record the album, but Idol's band was credited. John Goodsall's signature machine gun effect in the guitar solo was achieved by beating down the neck of a Fender Strat with his knuckles. Miming to the video, Steve Stevens jerks the tremolo arm at the point, which obviously has a pitch modulation effect and not the original percussive effect achieved on the record. For that record, the musicians were John Goodsall, lead and rhythm guitars, Rick Parnell, drums, Mike Porcaro, bass, Billy Idol, vocal, piano composer, and Sylvester, keyboards. The song had been composed by Idol with his live guitarist, Steve Stevens. When you hear that stuff like that?
Where did you hear that from? I wanna find out.
The internet is serious business, man. That's all I got to say. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's first I've heard that, but
it's total bunk.
Pretty ridiculous, yeah. Especially considering that as a co-songwriter on 90% of those songs, I'm gonna then let somebody else come in and play. Yeah. No, Rebel Yell is was actually our touring band because we had just met Tommy Price in the studio. We started recording Rebel Yell with a Lynn drum because we couldn't find a drummer who could play to a click. So those tracks were, we were in Electric Lady Studios working, and we needed a drummer. And Tommy, was in the studio recording with the band Scandal, and we heard him in the other room, and we said, let's try that guy. We had tried some other drummers, and it didn't work out. So once we got Tommy, then we could finish the whole record. There's a couple of tracks that the Lynn drum does make it to the final version, which is Eyes Without a Face, and Flesh for Fantasy are a Lynn drum. Everything else is live drum.
Yeah.
And then the bass player is Steve Webster, who was on Alana Miles' Black Velvet. We had heard that on the radio and went, that's really good bass player. Get that guy.
Go.
So that's and that was the band that we went out and recorded, and we went out and toured with. So yeah.
Yeah, I tried to research this because it's all over this guy's website. A couple of different websites, John Goodsall. But what I found,
John Goodsall, I know who he is.
Brand X.
He was in Brand X.
He's a bad dude. He's a session cat, but that's what he says. And I picked up the deluxe special amazing edition of Rebel Yell.
Right.
And on that album,
there's the demo version.
Exactly. It has the expanded. Yeah. It's the expanded version. It's got the demos. Yeah. The remastered demos.
Right.
And it's you.
Yeah.
It's you. The guitar solo is slightly different. The vibe is a little different, but it's obviously the one that was used as the single is superior. But you really get a sense of the creative process and how you guys were trying to find.
I think there was an early version of Flesh of Fantasy on there as well. We had a different chorus on Flesh because our A&R guy at the label kept saying, you don't have a chorus.
I have this kind of depraved memory of the music video for Flesh for Fantasy, and because I was like in my, I'm not gonna say, but I was of a certain age during the MTV years when that thing was all over MTV, and there's that image when they do the hand claps. It's the woman smacking her own ass. That's just the best. And they did it and they synced it up.
Yeah, that
with
was
the smack.
That's Perry Lister, who was Billy's baby mama. They have a son, Willem, who's now 22 years old. So
there you go.
Yeah,
very cool. Well, hey, this has been great, man. I really appreciate you come down. I want to play some more of this tune is called Hellcats Take the Highway.
Right,
Do you remember that song by any chance?
Yeah. Tell you what's cool about this. The guitar sound is from a little tiny Supro amp with a speaker like the size of a car radio. Like,
it was the 10.
No, this
was even smaller.
It's like an oval, and it's got to be all of 4 to 6 inches.
Oh,
tiny
God.
little. The whole amp is like this.
I used to like those other little Socos.
Yeah.
The little ones.
Yeah.
This is some serious speeding on the 405 while drinking tequila and Vicodin, right?
Just 30 minutes late for your gig.
I'm late. Oh, get out of the way. Oh, why is the slow lane so slow? Okay.
Exactly.
I was looking kind of, this was like influenced by Rock and Roll by Led Zeppelin. That kind of like straight ahead rock thing.
Yeah, it's a great track. It's just, you will be highly motivated listening to this. Great song to clean your house to. Well, that's our show. I'd like to thank our guest Steve Stevens.
It's been a pleasure.
Buy all his music wherever cool music is sold. Do it now. And my co-host Maurice Sydnor. Check out his website at dreamvision927.com for the absolute best in pro industry audio. We'd also like to thank our sponsors, Music Connection Magazine. Visit them at musicconnection.com. Also, Analog Man Guitar Effects, providing everything you need between your amp and guitar at analogman.com. Tune in next week where our guest will be soundtrack recording artist and composer Keith Emerson. No, actually, it's not Keith Emerson because he plays keyboards. It's Mark Bonilla. He plays with the Keith Emerson band. He also does all the guitars for Justified, the TV series.
There you go.
So he's the National Steel, and then he goes out and does solo records and shreds, you know. See you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Station.
You better be here because we love you.
Signing off, y'all.
We are leaving.